Hello everyone. In previous video, we have seen the first component of a blood, that is plasma. After plasma, the next element of a blood is the formed elements, which are also called as a blood cells. In a blood cells, we are having three different types of blood cells such as erythrocytes, leukocytes and the thrombocytes. Erythrocytes means RBC, leukocyte means WBC and the thrombocyte means platelets. So today in this video we are going to learn about RBC, which is also called as a red blood corpuscle or erythrocyte. Now this erythrocyte, they are most abundant cells in human body. They are circular in shape, biconcave and enucleated. Means at the time of formation of a RBC in a different organs, that RBCs, they are showing presence of a nucleus. But when the RBC gets mature, okay, during the process of erythropoiesis, then that RBCs in which nucleus gets degenerated. When we observe the RBC from the front side, okay, from the front view, it is circular in shape. And when we observe it from the lateral view, it is a biconcave. As the name of erythrocyte is a red blood corpuscle, its color is a red because it shows a presence of a respiratory protein such as hemoglobin, which helps for the exchange of gases. Oxygen and the carbon dioxide is transported with the help of hemoglobin of RBC. Here, that RBCs, okay, its diameter is a 7 micron meter and its thickness is approximately 2.5 micron meter. When we study the blood sample, okay, the amount of or the count of RBC is find out. What is the RBC count? RBC count means the total number of RBCs are found in a 1 cubic millimeter of a blood sample. So in a male, that RBC count is approximately 5.1 to 5.8 millions per cubic millimeter of a blood sample. And in a female, that RBC count is 4.3 to the 5.2 millions per cubic millimeter. In a male and the female, that RBC count is different. The average lifespan or the approximately the lifespan of a RBC is near about 120 days. After 120 days, that dead RBCs, they are destroyed in a different organs. They are destroyed in the liver and the spleen of that adult. Here we can see the diagram of a red blood cells or the red blood corpuscle. That red blood corpuscle, when we observe from the top view, it is circular in shape, and when we observe it from the side view or the lateral view, it is a biconcave. In the cytoplasm of a mature RBC, mitochondria and other organelles are absent, but in RBC there is a presence of hemoglobin which carry respiratory gases. Here, the diameter of a mature RBC is near about 7 to 7.5 micron meter and the thickness is 2 micron meter. In this diagram, we can see that RBC, it is with biconcave disc with a no nucleus, and hemoglobin, it helps for the transportation of respiratory gases such as oxygen and the carbon dioxide. Erythropoiesis, it is a process of formation of erythrocyte in a bone marrow cavity of a long bones in adult. In long bones of an adult, there is a presence of hemocytoblast, which are totipotent. They are having the power of division, and this multipotent stem cells, they are undergoing division and differentiation into the different types of what cells. Okay, now this process of a division and the differentiation, first it takes place in the bone marrow cavity and then it comes in the blood. Now in bone marrow cavity, that multipotent stem cells or we can say that the hemocytoblast gets divided and differentiated into proerythroblast. You can see the nucleus in that. Then proerythroblast, it undergoes division and differentiation into the erythroblast. That erythroblast, it ejaculate the nucleus. Ejaculate means it remove the nucleus, it ejects the nucleus. Okay, and then from the bone marrow, that erythroblast, after ejaculation or after removal of nucleus, gets converted into the reticulocytes. It enters into the blood, and in the blood, after entering that reticulocyte, it also ejects some organelles, and then finally that reticulocyte gets developed or gets converted into the mature erythrocyte, which is also called as a RBC. Okay, the same chart is given on another side with the number of days. Okay, the day number 1 of erythropoiesis, where that hemocytoblast, okay, hemocytoblast, or the multipotent stem cells of a bone marrow cavity, okay, gets divided and differentiated into the proerythroblast. Then that proerythroblast on day number 2, okay, it gets converted into basophilic erythroblast. On day number 3, it gets converted into polychromatophilic erythroblast. Day number 4, it gets converted into normoerythroblast. Okay, means from day number 2 to day number 4, that cells, blood cells, they are in the bone marrow cavity in the form of erythroblast. Now this erythroblast, it eject nucleus and it gets converted into reticulocytes. That reticulocytes, it enters into the blood, okay, it ejects the organelles and gets converted into mature erythrocyte. Again, one more slide to understand the erythropoiesis. Erythropoiesis, it takes place in erythropoietic organ in adult. Okay, the site of a erythropoiesis is a bone marrow cavity of a long bones. In the bone marrow cavity of long bones, there is a presence of a stem cells which are called as a hemocytoblast. That hemocytoblast, it undergoes division and differentiation into the proerythroblast, which shows the presence of a mitochondria and the nucleus, some organelles, etc. Then that proerythroblast in the bone marrow cavity, it gets divided, differentiated into erythroblast. Then that erythroblast, it eject nucleus and it gets converted into reticulocyte. After ejection of a nucleus, that erythroblast get converted into reticulocytes, which enters into the blood, and that reticulocyte, it ejects remaining organelles and it gets converted into mature RBC, or the erythrocyte, which is without nucleus and other organelles. When there is a deficiency of a supply of oxygen to the kidney, then cells of kidney get stimulated. Now, why? What could be the reason for the less supply of oxygen to the kidney? The answer is that less number of RBC. Okay, so in that condition, that cells of kidney start producing hormone. The name of hormone is the erythropoietin hormone, which stimulate the cells of a bone marrow cavity to produce more number of erythrocyte by the process of erythropoiesis. And as the erythropoiesis occurs, the number of RBC will definitely increase, and that increased RBC will carry sufficient amount of oxygen towards the kidney. The process of synthesis or the formation of erythrocyte is called as erythropoiesis. Erythropoiesis in adult, it takes place in the red bone marrow cavity of long bones. Long bones of our hand and the leg, they are with the ends and the shaft. Okay. In the end, it shows the presence of a yellow bone marrow cavity, and in the shaft region, there is a presence of a red bone marrow cavity, where the blood cells, they are produced by the process of hemopoiesis. Now we are talking about the erythrocyte. So synthesis of a erythrocyte in the red bone marrow cavity takes place from hemocytoblast or reticulocytes. See here, in that red bone marrow cavity, that hemocytoblast, these are the cells, it undergoes division and the differentiation to form the erythrocyte. In adult and in a fetus, erythropoietic organs are different. In a fetus, as the bones are not properly developed, in the fetus, that synthesis of RBC takes place in the spleen and in the liver. And in an adult, as we know that, it takes place in the red bone marrow of a long bones. For synthesis of RBC, there is a need of some basic elements such as vitamin B12, folic acid, and the heme protein which contain the iron is required for the RBC. And then once that 120 days are over, then old, dead, worn out RBCs that destroyed in the liver and in the spleen. That's why that spleen is also called as a graveyard of RBC. मतलब यहाँ पे जो dead RBCs है उन्हें क्लियर किया जाता है, खत्म किया जाता है spleen में. Then we have seen the total RBC count. Total RBC count means what here? The total number of RBCs per cubic millimeter of a blood sample. In a male and in the female, that RBC count is different. Okay, if the count of RBC it increases than the total RBC count, then it is called as a polycythemia. लेकिन अगर आरबीसी का काउंट ये टोटल आरबीसी काउंट से कम होता है, if it is decreases, then it is called as a erythrocytopenia. In our body, there are some hormones are produced by the organ to produce RBC. For example, the kidney, in the kidney cells, okay, that kidney cells, they are producing erythropoietin hormone. That hormone it stimulates the bone marrow cells to produce the RBC. मैच्योर एरिथ्रोसाइट, जैसे मैंने आपको स्टार्टिंग में ही बताया कि आरबीसी एट द टाइम ऑफ formation they are with the nucleus, but when it undergoes maturation, then that nucleus and the other organelles are absent in the mature RBC. Means mature erythrocyte, it is without nucleus, without mitochondria and other membrane bound organelle. But in the cytoplasm of RBC, there is a presence of a respiratory protein, that is a hemoglobin, which helps for the transport of respiratory gases. It contains various types of enzymes, especially the carbonic anhydrase enzyme, which helps during the respiration. Transport of what here? Oxygen and the carbon dioxide. This erythrocyte, it is responsible for the exchange of gases. It also helps for maintaining the pH of the blood. Viscosity means thickness of the blood. It also helps for the blood clotting. The hematocrit ratio is the volume of RBC to the volume of a blood, and that hematocrit ratio in a male and in a female, it is different.